Today I am at the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum just off of Highway 153 in Chattanooga, and it is such a fun place to come. Now today there's only one train running, and that's the local train. It is a 65-minute journey. It's really only about 30 minutes on the train because there's a 30-minute space where the train gets turned around on a table. We have to get off the train for that. So it's really like 15 minutes one direction, 15 minutes the other direction, and a stop. That ticket is about $24. But the train depot here has train rides throughout the year. They run specialty trains at like Christmas and Valentine's Day, and they have dinner on the train, and they do a 6-hour tour and an 8-hour tour on the train, stopping at places like Copper Hill where you can get off and go shopping, have something to eat. And I'm gonna do that ride again. I've done it once. I'm gonna do that ride again soon. But today I just wanted to take this little tiny ride and remind myself what it was like back in the day.
Oh, civilians that way. No, you're good.
All right. That was a perfect morning for an open air coach. You know?
We have come from the 153 side of Chattanooga to Chattanooga side of Missionary Ridge, and part of what this ride does is it takes the locomotive off the train and turns it around on a turnstile. It's one of the few remaining, if not the only remaining, original turns that you can see operating in the United States. So we're going to get a little video of that before we make our move back toward the original depot.
In LaGrange, Illinois. And yes, that is the same General Motors that makes automobiles. 1829 was delivered new to the United States Army, and it was used at the Olson Ammunition Plant in Kingsport, Tennessee from 1951 until about 1993, when it was declared government surplus and it was put up for sale. Tennessee Valley Railroad stepped in and purchased this locomotive for $250. Shipping not included. We actually bought three of them. We bought the 1824, the 1829, and the 1832. 1824 was restored to operation in 1996, 1829 in 1995. 1832 was never restored, and it became a parts unit and has since been cut up for parts. Keep the 1829 and 1824 operational. So today, the 29 is the only one of those that is still in operating condition. Look at him teetering on that bearing. He is perfectly balanced over that 6-foot bearing. We're now going to begin turning. While we are turning, do make sure you stay behind that yellow line and do not hang on to those ropes, please. Now the 1829 is what we call a GP7 type locomotive. GP means general purpose. So this locomotive is right at home pulling freight trains, passenger trains, or switching cars in a yard or terminal. Inside that long hood behind the words Tennessee Valley is a 16-cylinder, 1,500 horsepower diesel motor. And that is what ultimately moves the 1829 up and down the railroad. Electricity. So it's known as a diesel-electric locomotive. But the biggest difference in today's locomotives versus engines like 1829 here, today's locomotives can easily exceed 4,000 horsepower versus the 29's meager 1,500. And today's modern locomotives are often running on alternating current instead of direct current. We're going to do that so that our locomotive and our trainman Matt can take the locomotive down to the other end of the yard. They'll go through a switch and they will reattach the locomotive to the opposite end of the train.
I've been wanting to take this little train ride for some time now, and it finally worked out in my schedule. It is so fascinating to me, the history of this railroad and the way it has worked in Chattanooga from the Civil War on. This railroad was one of the reasons why Chattanooga was such a desired location for both the Union Army and the Confederate Army, because it was a supply route, and whoever controlled it controlled a lot. What I didn't get to put in the video, a little trivia that might be of interest to you. The trestle that turns at the end there, I want to say they said that weighed about 150 tons. I don't remember exactly. The diesel engine itself weighs about 200 tons. I could have those two backwards. Don't hold me to that. But it was somewhere around 350 tons altogether, as I recall. And it sits on top of a 6-foot diameter ball bearing, so that we could see as the trestle comes to sort of the end furthest away from me in the video, there is another rail track there, and the trestle is just up just a little bit. You could see that. And when they pulled the engine on, that trestle comes down and becomes perfectly balanced with this 200-ton engine on it, on top of this 6-foot diameter ball bearing. And back when it was first in use, 4 men, could turn that contraption around by hand. That's the kind of engineering that is at work there. Now, they do it obviously motorized now for safety reasons and whatever, but it was just fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And they have a ton of other tours there, and I'm going to put a link to their website in the description in case you're ever in Chattanooga and want to look them up. They do a lot of stuff with kids on, spend the day with Thomas the Tank Engine, um, and there and there's also a museum there and other kinds of stuff. So again, if you're ever there, I would highly recommend you go. The ride that I took today took about an hour and 20 minutes or so total, and it was $24 for an adult ticket. A couple of things about putting the video together very quickly, because I've already talked way too long. I was hoping by taking the earliest train ride, I would have the emptiest train. It was not to be. There were 2 busloads of senior citizens who were on the train with me. So the car that I was in was pretty full. And so my ability, what I wanted to do was kind of move around the car a little bit, set the camera up different places, get shots of me looking out the window. None of that happened. What I did do, I only videoed the ride out. I did not video anything on the way back. And instead what I did was the person who was leading the tour said, I'm going to be quiet for a little while, let you enjoy the ride. And I videoed about a minute and a half of just the train. I actually covered up the camera with my hand and just got the train sound, and that's the audio you hear underneath. Because like the duck tour, I couldn't find a spot to video that wasn't going to have some clip of him talking and about nothing, because you wouldn't understand anything he said. So that was kind of how I got that done. I did not use a microphone on this video at all either. That's about it. So I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what you thought, and we'll see you tomorrow.